start the panel discussion, I would like to invite Dr. Harold DeCosta. Mrs. Willow Williams, Mr. Kapil Mehrotra, and Dr. Chittaranjan Kesari. Yeah, please. Let me introduce, start with Mrs. Willow Williams. She is the CIO and Head Digital Transformation in Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital. Dr. Harold DeCosta is the President, Cyber Security Corporation. And we have Kapil Mehrotra, he is the Group Chief Technical Officer of NCML. And Dr. Chittaranjan Kesari is Head of IT in Hive Carbon Zero Development Limited. It's part of the Fosun Group. Let me introduce about the topic. Emerging technologies in recent times have produced disruptive technologies all over the world, fostering innovation in industries challenging business models as well as the way we communicate and work. With technological changes transforming from a progressive rate to an exponential rate of development, there is considerable consensus that the sudden reality of the pandemic has become a driver and an accelerator of the incipient digital transformation. On this backdrop, we'll start this question. My first question is, while remote work has improved many employees' sentiments and increased productivity, 45% of Everywhere Workplace survey respondents say they have been negatively affected in some way by remote work. What is your say on it? To start with Willow Williams. And you have to give your inputs in 2 minutes max. It's okay? Yep. Thanks. Yeah, it's on.
I'm not really good at speaking less, but
Okay.
so wait. So actually, as a hospital, we have never had the opportunity to work from home. Let's first say this.
Yeah.
So coming to that, we really had to work on site at all times. So this question should be, I think, taken more by people who are having that experience of working from home. Having said that, we were always on site always available because the hospitals were never possible to run sitting at home. And patients were always supposed to be looked in person. Even then, we built a lot of innovative ideas in the hospital to address the patient's difficulties, from video consultations to many things. While we were on site, patients were sitting at home. Let's understand that.
Yes, you are right. Dr. DeCosta, will you add some light? It is absolutely true that there are many startups has already come up with starting the remote hospitals in the villages. Okay, they're connecting to the large hospitals also. I was just trying to give compliment to the how the hospital and industry has been transformed during pandemic. Dr. DeCosta can throw some light.
Yeah. Actually, I would just like to add a couple of points, I think the one negative effect what has taken on the employee is the psychological imbalance. That's, I think, taken a very heavy toll. So, I think if you talk to any of the employees, within my organization, my team, so 90% of them are reluctant now to come to the office. And whenever they have been told to come to the office, somewhere or the other, last 2 years of sitting at home and giving a comfort level to them makes them feel that work from home is the best opportunity. I was just hearing one of the speakers saying about, I think it was said by you itself, that today employees are not having job, but I come up with a resignation, and rightly said. They said within 1 month we'll get a job. Why to wait for 3 months also? So I think the negative trend, what I would just like to put on is only one factor, and that is the psychological imbalance. I think that has to be rectified.
Why? Like, how you will say?
Yeah. So as you rightly mentioned, like 49% organization, they are basically calling back to the employees and remote working. But in my views, remote working will still exist because in IT, reason is people are not basically preferring to come back to office, especially in IT. And if you see the shortage of the skill set post-pandemic is too high. Everywhere, if you look at, like, people are running short with their skill set. Reason is because the moment you are calling, they are putting the paper and they are leaving the organization. So definitely, we are giving the option to the IT people to work from the home. And if you are leaving this option to the one department, definitely other departments is also asking. Another advantage, companies are looking at the optimization of the overall cost of the business. Because earlier they were running like 5, 6 offices in a different places. They have consolidated and they have basically moved into one and moved employees on a remote working. So if you have seen the Aruba's presentation, so they are offering a lot of good things there and they're talking about the remote. And that's a fact. Security becomes one of the perennial problem. Reason is because you are working on your internet, which is basically provided by the DSL provider, and you are accessing a lot of information from the office, which is basically very, very critical. So there are chances for the vulnerability, and you need a solution to protect that. So definitely there are so many innovations are coming, and I'm sure those things will be addressed, but this scenario will continue forever.
Yes.
That will not go back.
Yes, I am right. Aruba has got a various solution. Remotely they manage it. The employee need not to go to the remote where the Aruba machines has been fitted. So they can control remotely and they give the lot of value-added services. So anyway, Dr. Kesari, want to throw some light.
Basically, today I have just received a message from my HR in my company that we can plan a 50-seater office in place of 300. So we have already started, and when I come here, I have met with Aruba team that how we are going to manage it and all. Basically, this is the need an hour. If suppose we are traveling 2 hours or 3 hours daily in Mumbai to come in office and work, that whatever the development we have done in the last 2 years, companies and management feels that work from home is going to stay here. We are going to take a better benefit from the employee when they are working from home. Let they can come 1 day or 2 day in office and let they can work. Even when we are working from home, we not require lot of activities like not required a printing and all. So you are going to reduce lot of other whatever the day-to-day activities, day-to-day cost companies are bearing in the environment, they are going to reduce it. In my company, my organization, we totally focus on work from home. We are not, from last 2 years, we are not going to tell anybody that you have to come in office and work from home. Let HOD can decide who is going to work from home and who is going to work from office. So this is the future, and we are growing fast in this segment, I can say.
Wonderful. So how enterprises to prepare for the cybersecurity challenges of software-defined 5G networks? Can I start with Dr. DeCosta?
I think the 5G networks, I think it's on the off end now. But when you talk about the 5G networks, what we are talking, I think there are a lot of issues which has been discussed at the government level, at the corporate level, and at the root level also. I think one of them, I think, before we talk about, the software or a security, I think it's all been debated even at the health sector, that how the effect of these 5G networks will be on the human being as such. So that's one part of it. The second part of it, if I look from the 5G networks, I think, within our nation, since I work in the investigation team, so what I find across is that we are too young to adapt to 5G network because our basic cyber hygiene practice is too poor, is extremely poor. We may talk about the best of the technologies, but when you talk about the implementation of it, I think there's a lot of question which is still in the mind of the common people. And when you talk about the technology, I think we should not talk about the technology only for a certain class of people. I think when the technology is being implemented and used at the root level, then we could say that that technology is rightly put into use. Summing up the point, I feel that rather, looking at the 5G network, looking at the aspect of it, how it will all the way, groom the development of the nation, I feel that the hygiene practices have to be built up before actually we talk about the 5G and the associated security with it.
Mrs. Williams must have got a different perspective because you want to take this hospital to the rural. So what is your take on it? You have a lot of hope on the 5G.
Why talk about only 5G? I can do that even with 4G technology. So the thing is that, yes, everybody is talking about 5G without, without realizing that even today you can do those things. Where networks are concerned, there are powerful networks. Yes, 5G will improve the speed and the performance. However, today, how much of us are utilizing what we have? That is more important. We have got the best of networks even today. We have got the landscape is open to the rural areas even today for healthcare if we are willing to expand ourselves to that level. So if I talk about healthcare going into rural areas, if the kind of policies are there where the government will allow us to transfer the data or to access the healthcare facilities in the form of telemedicine, in that sense, networks will automatically help. But are we really ready to do that? There are a lot of companies who are actually willing to go into the rural areas and build that kind of infrastructure over there, Reliance also being one of them. But what are the policies governing the data collection? What are the policies governing the connectivity? This has to improve, that has to be defined, and that has to play a major role in the success factor of creating that environment.
Kapil, you must have a different thought.
Yeah,
because you are connecting to
totally
the
different thought.
Yeah.
Reason is because, see, whenever we are talking for any new technology or adoption, first of all, enterprises, they have to look their benefits, whether their business is basically complementing to that or not. Because it's a huge investment, they have to do that, right? Definitely 5G infrastructure required a lot of, big investment. Reason is because it's agility, it's a speed, data transmission, one point to the another point. So you have to build a lot of channels actually. And building a lot of channel, see, we are putting a tower, simple tower, which is costing 5 CR now these days, right? And you're talking like within a 100-meter vicinity, there will be 3 or 4 towers, which will help to transfer your data, right? That's a very huge investment we are talking. Now coming to the straight away business, enterprises, let's say my enterprises, I'm running 6 companies. One company doesn't require, but another company require it, but they don't have right business case because they can basically, they can live with the scenario wherein like I can manage 1 day data lag. Let's talk for the BFSI. BFSI clearly says, okay, I'm fine. I'm managing my data with the 1 day lag. Paytm says amount will settle in a T+1. I'm fine with that. Why do we need this infrastructure in that case? It means we have to look at the business. Right now, if I want real-time transfer has to be happened. So if I look the healthcare, where immediately CT scan has to be transferred, MRI has to be transferred, doctor is sitting remotely. That business case is fitting there,
Yes.
right? But in my scenario, enterprise will not basically go for it. So we have to look at the perspective, which perspective is better to adopt that technology, how fast they can, and what they are contributing, and what investment size they are ready to invest in. That's what is my perspective is.
You are absolutely right. You are seeing that from T+7 to T+1 transfer. You are seeing that.
If you want to bring T+1 to 0,
Yes.
Then you
It can also possible. T+0 is also possible. Earlier it was T+7. T+4 was the common.
Even another thing is like I will take a 30-second because most of the organization they started a different application development.
Yes.
That's an offline application. It means I'm fine whether network is not there. Let the guy come tomorrow or day after tomorrow or maybe after a week. His application will sync with the server and data will be updated. I'm fine with that scenario as well.
Yeah.
So you have to see the business actually.
Yes, yes. Dr. Kesari is head of, I think, your information CIO, CTO, and CDO. You have a different perspective in your.
Basically, in my business, I am going to say that if suppose something going to happen for the machine learning and all, definitely 5G is required.
Yes.
But the bandwidth, whatever we are looking for in the remote locations where even 4G is not available, and something is going to come, definitely we are. Basically, we totally depends upon the real-time data, or on the basis of that, this company is working on. Even not even this, whatever the data we are using on our cloud or SaaS-based application, this is real-time going to sync with our MNC head office either in Singapore or in Shanghai. So on the basis of that, we are looking for huge amount of bandwidth. And not even that bandwidth, information security is also going to play a very big role in this. So on the basis of that, if requirements going to come, we are going to, I can say, maybe we are the early adopter of this project in India.
Yeah, please.
Add the one use case, very interesting use case. Recently, like we were participating for that. China basically want to give 100 Mbps access in bullet train, which runs on a speed of 500. Can you imagine the use case? And they came to India to develop this solution.
That
And
is-
India bid and won that.
Yes. You are
So
right.
we have a brain, but that's a use case, is there. So we were digging down why China wants to give this particular scenario. What is the need in the bullet train to basically use 100 Mbps, right? They said experience. So their use case was very clear. Experience to the people there, right? Similarly, we have to figure out the right use case to use the technology. That's what is my
Yes.
point is.
Now we are moved to the very relevant question. We have here the most of the value-added resellers and distributors are there. So they want to understand, with COVID restrictions lifted, hundreds and thousands of employees will be returning to the offices. And the IT department will be inundated with thousands of new devices coming onto the network for the first time. Do you think there is a need for zero trust security framework to secure the everywhere workplace? I want you to answer in 60 seconds.
Zero trust is required right now, but it depends upon industry to industry. If suppose your information security policy is working fine and there is no risk behind this, then you can hold for some time, but the future is zero trust. And let's see what the companies are going to implement, or on the basis of the safety and security is going to happen. But this is future is that zero trust is going to come. Anyhow, every company is going to implement this. And partners are going to play a very big role in this. Thanks.
Thank you.
See, if your house has a 4 doors and you are thinking only to basically lock one door, that's not right idea actually. But you definitely thinking in the right direction, at least the entry points has to be covered. So that's what a zero trust is, because there is a big checklist which you have to look. But if any vulnerability is hitting at the entry gate itself and you want to kill there, for that, like, zero trust is the best solution. There are number of the vulnerabilities are like ransomware and other stuff which are hitting to us, but this zero trust will help you definitely. Another perspective is definitely your partner, your vendors, they will play the key role for the implementation, because they know the use cases better, and they know the domain you are, so that they can help in a way they can basically protect. And the critical touch points. Let's say you have a very large enterprise, let's say 2 lakh users are working there, 2 lakh endpoints are there. But your budget is, let's say, only for the 500,000 or 2,000 people. There are use cases actually, everywhere the moment you go there. So then you have to look for the critical touch points. First of all, what critical touch points you have to cover it. But that's a first step, baby step you say. And then probably you can grow, and it is a requirement. You cannot say no. As every house needs a lock, every endpoint needs a zero trust. So there is no choice actually.
Yeah. Dr. DeCosta, how you want to add?
Yeah, see, we are talking about cyber security, but then cyber security is the defense. So we talk about it as the first step. but mostly I work in the post-mortem when the breach has taken place. So I think 2021, between 2020 and 2021, we'll say that the cyber crimes have increased exponentially. And especially during this COVID time, work from home, I would say there is no single vertical which has not been affected. If you see from the financial domain, I have received n number of cases, at least about, if I just count across, 30 to 40 cases of Dabba trading. Then there are a lot of cases related to ransomware. One of them is from the hospital, not even one, but there have been certain critical cases from the hospital where data has been encrypted of COVID patients. And being Digital India, what we call, we don't maintain any registers, we don't maintain any log sheets, and the data, we are not able to get it back. We talk about cryptocurrencies, we talk about the dark web, we talk about the deep web. There's once again a huge, in fact, we are talking about one of the largest frauds in our country, which was in 2018, the quantum of the bitcoins. We are talking about 2,000 crore fraud. Now the ED has made from that 2,000 crore fraud to 20,000 crore fraud. Now what I mean to say is one of the domain, the financial domain, vastly affected. The second part is that we talk about the industry. We're talking about data theft cases have increased exponentially. And what I would like to say, since there are so many resellers over here, when you are giving up solutions, just don't tell only about the security, which is a must, but tell them about the law and the governance associated with that. I think we are very poor in that. And because we are very poor, when people become victims, they come running and say that we did a big mistake of not having security in place. But you also tell them that if you don't have security in place, these are the legal ramifications which can take place. Let me also put on record, the conviction rate of cybercrime in our country is only 0.18%. Whereas the actual conviction overall I'm talking about is somewhere in the range between 15 to 17%. So what I would like to put up, and what my other panelist members are saying, the zero trust defense along with the governance is must in today's scenario.
If you'll put, you are very little orthodox on the placing the figures. If you put the right figure, it would be very astonishing. The things are getting breach in the cyber cryptocurrencies comes. Anyway, we'll talk later. We'll let understand from Williams.
Yeah, so actually, yes, the cybersecurity or zero trust security is a must in every industry, not only in healthcare or in finance or anything. We need to understand one more point which I would like to highlight. Everybody talks about building the security at the entry level or at the level where you are securing your servers and your high-end data and everything. What about the internal security? How many environments create data breaches within the organization by the people of the organization, and how much do we try to protect that at the level of zero security? So I would like to really see tools being used in such a way that this is covered as much as the higher level of security is looked at. If today I just point out one example, in hospitals, in the last 3-4 hospitals that I've worked in the last 10 years, I've seen majorly for communication, simple tools on the phone. Recently, of course, WhatsApp is like the tool to use for communication internally. And users are sharing data all across in WhatsApp just to communicate fast and quickly to give services. How do you take care of these kind of breaches where data is lost or exposed with a zero trust security tool to cover this kind of data breach? So this has to be.
I call CIO is the Chief Information Officer, but I call them as the Chief Intelligent Officer. To start with, what innovations are required to thrive in 2022 and beyond? Please answer in one sentence, if you are intelligent officer.
I cannot reply this in one sentence, but I can say that beyond thinking beyond out of the way and working on the automation to protect everything is the intelligence behind the CIOs to reduce the manpower and use the technologies.
Thank you very much. Kapil.
Yeah, but I definitely look for data analytics and AI ML. Reason is because if you are an enterprise and having large information, large data, you need to basically prepare yourself for the next level. For that, your data analyst tool really help to basically predict any next level of requirements what you are looking or innovation you are looking for.
Do you have any figure how many CIOs they have promoted as a founder or co-founder or CEO? You have any figure in India?
In India, now these days, because most of the CIOs, they are looking for next role, but they are not getting, so they becomes as a startup entrepreneurs. So in my circle itself, if I look the number in out of 100, I can say 7 or 8% people they started thinking.
And 3 to 4% they promoted is the CEO.
CEO as well.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
Harold, now the same question was to Harold. What innovations are required to thrive 2020 and beyond in one sentence?
One is, I go with what he said, artificial intelligence, that's one. And I think most of them come from a technical, I also come from a technical background, but having a little legal orientation, AI is one. Number two, I think our Information Technology Act is 12 years old, and there's no amendment which is done in that. So when you talk about innovations also has to go with legal ramifications. So the time has come that our Information Technology Act has to be changed. And number three, which I just told some time before, awareness, and cyber hygiene practices to be made to understand for the common people. I think these three things, according to me, then only can talk about whatever the innovations and whatever the fulfillment we want as far as the technology is concerned.
That is true that if any organization, they don't follow any cyber practices, if any one of the employee can do any kind of mistakes, that owner will go to jail.
Yeah, if we have a provision, but then what happens is that, the provision is just on a piece of a paper. We have because just talking about technical won't do. I think we have to understand the legal ramifications also.
Yes.
So we have a provision, but then when I talk to any law enforcement agency or to the judicial agency, so which is the section? Where is the provision? So if that is the scenario, then I think what we are talking about, innovations, what we are talking about, technology influx will be just on a piece of a paper.
Yeah.
And I think that what you rightly said, the head of the organization, according to the law, is responsible, but now has to be made responsible in a practical sense. Then we will see that what we talk about technology revolution, what we talk about how the technology should help the people or the enterprise will be put into use.
Wonderful. Willow, you want to share your one-line answer?
As an intelligent CIO, oh my God. Okay, so yeah, in the space of hospitals and healthcare specifically, I would like to see a lot of insights coming out through predictive analytics, which will really make a lot of difference in the medical field. A lot of companies are already doing it, and that will bring a lot more benefits to the patient. That is most important at this stage, purely from a hospital perspective.
What a wonderful Power Pack panel discussion. So thank you very much, panelists, for joining the session.